Okay, so we are back to analyze another hand. This time, instead of analyzing under the gun versus big blind, we're going to be looking at cutoff open against big blind call. I thought I'd talk a little bit about the opening ranges, and then we can jump in and see what we're going to get in terms of a board, which I don't determine the board beforehand. Okay, so for the cutoff open, we're opening 21% of hands, which is relatively tight, but not like obscene. We're opening, strong broadways, and then a few suited one-gappers and suited connectors for the most part. The calling range is a bit more interesting, so taking a look, this is about, I don't think this percentage is correct here, because it's based on splitting the range. If we take a look, we're calling some of our weaker pairs, some of our weaker broadways, and some suited gappers and suited connectors. If we took a look at our raising range has the weaker of the suited connectors and the weaker gappers, as well as our weakest queens and our weakest kings, some weak suited aces, and then it has a huge chunk of the value range. The 2s and 4s, you'll notice 2s through 4s is in both ranges. They make sense both. Did I mess it up? They make sense both as raises and calls. And so, in general, what I think you should be doing is you should be calling most of the time and then occasionally raising with like 2s through 5s, like 1/6 of the time. That way you have better board coverage on certain boards. On the low coordinated boards, you can have really nutted hands occasionally when you 3-bet, which is nice, as well as you can immediately win the pot. You have disguised hands, you have coverage. And for most of these, we're not going to be having any mixed strategies right now, but for most of these, in terms of the opening ranges, you can, think of these stronger suited connectors, you call most of the time and raise occasionally, and the weaker ones you raise most of the time and call occasionally, and same with the suited gappers. And so this can be a good way to think of how you should be looking at constructing your range so that you have good coverage and are hard to play against. Because if you just always raise the gappers and then always call the connectors, then it'll be easy to exploit you. If you'll notice, a big portion of the range is in fact raising. Close to half the range is going to be raising, and then the slightly bigger portion is calling. This is pretty range or raise heavy range. Not sure. It's interesting. Okay. It's nice. Like, for example, a range where you're going to be, in general, if you're going to be out of position, raising becomes a lot more attractive. And so, for example, like cutoff versus button would probably want to call a lot more instead of playing raising a lot. And then cutoff versus big blind, there's more value to raising because you're going to be out of position, and it's nice to just win the pot pre-flop. Let's get a board, and then we will go through what we will be doing with the cutoff, and depending on how long that takes, we might make this a 2-part video or just go through the other one. Okay, so 3 cards. So we have the 3 of clubs, the ace of hearts. Oop, don't want to do it here. Okay. 3 of clubs, ace of hearts, and 4 of hearts. Okay, so we want to be thinking about whose range does this favor. First questions. I think we have our questions up here. And the other one, whose range does this board favor? Our range is capped or uncapped. Okay, well, so the nuts here is 2-3, right? Yeah. So the nuts is 2-3. Nobody can have 2-3 with these opening ranges. The cutoff can have top set and can have 3s and 4s, and the big blind can have 3s and 4s. This range favors the cutoff. The cutoff is also going to have notably ace king and ace queen, which are not in the big blind calling range, which is what we are playing right now. And so it's going to overall favor the cutoff, especially because the cutoff has a lot more aces. You'll notice we only have ace queen through ace jack off, as well as ace 10 suited. The cutoff does have twice as many hands, so it's like spread out across that distribution, but it's a lot harder to like raise or play back. Also notably, the cutoff is going to have a lot of two pair hands, whereas there aren't these weak suited aces in the big blind calling range. If the big blind had raised, their range would be really strong here, especially if you're occasionally raising the 2s through 4s, because then you could have all the sets, including aces, and a ton of two pairs because the ace 4 through the ace 5. Okay, so let's get into what we want to as the cutoff, because we are in position. We're assuming the big blind is checking on this board. This is not a very good board to lead into the pre-flop aggressor, because they have a range advantage. And secondly, the board, even though there's a flush draw, is not that wet. There's like 3 features that really make the board wet, and that's you have straight draws, you have flush draws, and then you also have top pair type hands that are vulnerable to being drawn out. The ace is not vulnerable to being drawn out on, and so there's that. There is flush and straight draws, but if they're somewhat limited, and the big blind does not have many straight draws in their calling, or any straight draws in their calling range, although you can assume that people will play a bit wider and that is possible for them to have it, but the range we have, they don't have it. So we're going to take a look at what we want to bet for value, what we want to bluff with, and what we want to check back with. We want to be value betting most of our best hands and checking back some of our strong hands, and we'll go from there and see what we want to bluff as well. Okay, so for value hands, I like checking back aces. We can have all the sets. We want to have some sets in our bet range and some in our check range. Hands that are going to call or look to call 3 streets are going to be, from the big blind, are going to be a lot of top pair type hands. And when we have 2 aces, we block the top pair. So I like checking it. If we could not have all the sets, then we'd maybe want to split them. So, and there's 3 combos of that. Oh, actually, I need to do something first. Or wait, let's do it in the order that we have it on the graphic. Okay, first things first is I need to pause the video and take out all the cards from the betting range, or from the cutoffs range, that they cannot have because of this board. So I'll be right back with that. Okay, we are back, and we took out all the hands. It was for the most part every hand that had an ace of hearts in it, but also the ace 3 of clubs. I don't think I missed anything. Last video I missed a few things here and there. I think you can get the overall logic even if I'm missing something, but okay. So for our check back range, we liked having the aces. You can occasionally bet aces, but it's going to be difficult. If you want to bet small, so on this board, I think you kind of want a medium-sized bet. Generally on ace-high boards, you can kind of bet on the smaller side for a couple of reasons. One, you can do it exploitatively because people kind of overfold on ace-high boards anyways, and so if you bet small, you can bet more hands. But secondly, the ace-high boards tend to be drier because you are not concerned about your top pair hands being drawn out by overcards, and so you can just kind of... It's less important to have a larger bet for protection. When the bet is smaller, then you can start betting your aces more often. On some boards, which I think I might cover next time I do a hand analysis, you actually just can bet your entire range and just bet it quite small, and in which case you would be betting the aces. But here, I like just checking them back, because that way... Because when you have 2 aces and there's an ace on the board, it's really hard for them to have an ace, and that's going to be the type of hand that can kind of call down for multiple streets. And so This way, your checking range has some protection, and they can't just bluff any two cards on the turn. Okay. Now we also have, let's see, how many combos of... We have 3 combos of ace-4 and 2 combos of ace-3. I don't think it makes a difference how we split these. I guess we can check back our ace-4 of clubs. If we're going to check back some of them, that one would be the most sensible. The reason why is that you, on some backdoor flush runouts, you will have, you can play those, or what is it? You're less likely to be drawn out on backdoor flushes if you already have the ace-4 of clubs, and you also block some of your opponent's continuing range, so it's okay to do it like that. That way we kind of are splitting the range a little bit. And then we have ace-4 of, what is it, spades and diamonds, and ace-3 of spades and diamonds as well. We will be betting. Okay, so that's all of our sets and 2 pairs, which are our very strongest hands. We will also want to be betting other things for value. Now, noticeably, we cannot have the ace of hearts because it's on the board, so we cannot be checking back with like nut flush draw top pair type hands. We still want to check back with some of our top aces though, but we want to for the most part be betting them. So one thing we could do is we can check back when we have the king of hearts. Can also just bet all of our ace-king. And let's take a look. We have ace-king through ace-10 off. We can check back our very weakest aces, so we can check back our suited aces. If we look at the big blind calling range, the weakest aces they will have will be ace-10, and so we could look to check back some of those suited aces, especially the club suited aces, which have which will play well on future streets in a checking range. Okay, so let's bet all of our ace-king except for the ones with the king of hearts. So there are 3 ace-kings with the king of hearts. So and there were 16 aces, 4 less because of that, and then 3 less because thing. So what is that? 9 combos of ace-king, because that will have the nut blocker as well on some later streets. I think I like just betting with all the ace-queens, of which there's 12, because -4. And then ace-jack, I think you can either bet or check. I wonder if there's a especially good way to split this. We could just check back where we have the jack of hearts, but we'll just bet all of them. And then ace-10, we will check back with the 10 of hearts. And then we can check back our suited aces that are down to ace-deuce, of which, so ace-9, that aren't 2 pair hands as well. So what is that? And then 4, 5, 6, so 9, wait, 5, 6, or 7, 8, 9, so it's 15. Are we checking too many aces back here? Might be checking a little bit too many aces back here. But I think that's fine. Because we want to be mostly betting for value, which we are mostly betting for value. And it's not like we can get 3 streets from the aces, or we don't want to go for 3 streets of value with these like low rag aces anyways. And we have some really strong aces. Could maybe just bet all of the ace king, but I like having the nut flush draws in some of our check back range or nut flush blockers, and this seems like a decent way to do it. Maybe we'll move them around looking further into the range. And so what are we doing? Let's see. We've sorted what we've done with all of our aces, so now what are we doing with our kings? Well, we will have some king draws for the flushes. So let's handle our suited kings first. So we have king queen suited through king 7 suited. I like bluffing with our weaker kings and checking back our stronger kings in general. The reason being is that our stronger kings have much more showdown value and are easier to play on later streets, as you know, for like if broadways come, it's a lot easier to connect and be happy with your pair than it is if you have like king 7. So we will, why don't we bet king 7 through king 9 suited, and then check back. This is just splitting them even. These are bluffs of, and we're doing our clubs and hearts. Actually, I think we can do it through king 10. So this is 7, 8, 9, 10, so 8 bluffs, and we might move king 10 to a checking range, and we can just, it's possible we want to bet with some of our other king queens, but we'll just, for now, have them in our checking range. Because a lot of times when you're playing heads up, you want to check back your aces when you have ace high, and when there's an ace high flop, then your king high becomes your ace high. Although this is not heads up, this is 6 max that we are analyzing. So let's see. So king queen through king jack. And then we're just 16 combos. And then we are also checking back king 7 of, well, we don't need to write all this, but we're also checking back our other kings that are of diamonds / spades. And so we have some flushes or flush draws we will be checking back, and some we will be betting, which is what we want. That way, if you bet all your flush draws, it's pretty exploitable. And then let's see. That is our kings handled. Now our queens, I think we want to treat them much in the same fashion. We have queen jack suited, queen 10 suited, and I think queen jack off. Do we want to bet our queen jack off? We might want to bet our queen jack off and our queen jack suited. let's come back to the queens. Let's do our pocket pairs first, I guess. So, I kind of like, so something you could do is you can look to check back most of your pocket pairs that have a heart in them, and then bet a lot of the ones that don't. The ones that benefit more from protection are going to be the lower pocket pairs, and the ones that, because like kings and queens are less vulnerable to being drawn out on, kind of like just checking them. Strengthens our checking range a little bit. I think that you could also just check back when you have a heart with the stronger ones, and when the weaker ones you bet when you have a heart. So why don't we kind of just take a look at kind of doing a bit of that. We'll check back with our kings and our queens and our jacks with a heart. We'll bet with our jacks because they are vulnerable to being drawn out on. And we'll do the same with our tens. And then we'll just check all of our nines through, let's see, you can make a straight to a 7. So we'll check back 9s through 8s. And then this will be a bit of a merged bet, but we will bet with our 7s, 6s, and 5s and deuces with a heart in them as bluffs. Oop, what the hell did I do? This is 9 combos. What? Did I click numlock or something? So this is 9 combinations. And then the deuces is 1. And especially with the 9s through 5s, or sorry, the 7s through 5s, it like plays a bit as protection because obviously you probably have the best hand a lot of the time here, but you know it's not going to play that well on future streets when overcards come, and overcards are almost certainly going to come for the 7s through 5s, right? And then you also can continue to bluff on or bluff when hearts come. You could also check back the turn and look to maybe call some rivers depending on the run out, knowing that you have, like if a heart doesn't come and then a heart comes on the river, you can raise on the river sometimes and it'll make a good bluff hand, or you know, you can check back at the turn and look to maybe call some rivers because you block the flushes or some of them. Okay, let's see. So now we're back to the queens, and we have, how many value hands so far do we have? Let's take a look, because we want to have twice as many bluffs, roughly speaking, as we have value hands. So we have 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 25, 37, 49, 58. So we're going to end up bluffing around 60% or betting around 60% of the time, and we currently have only 17. 20 bluffs. Oh, wait, yeah. So we need about 80 more bluffs. So, which means we're going to be bluffing a lot of our suited connectors and gappers that are clubs and hearts. Probably all of them. So, taking a look at the queens, we'll just start bluffing all of our suited queens. And then we'll take a look at what we might do with queen jack off, because we might just bet whenever we have a heart. So, but queen jack. I think, what were we opening to? Queen 10 suited? Yeah. And then hearts, clubs. And so maybe we should even be checking back more of our kings. More of our suited kings instead of bluffing them if we're going to be playing like this. That way our checking range has more. The problem is we don't have very many pairs plus flush draws. We don't have a lot of 3x of hearts. And so those make really good checkbacks for protection. So we might have to do that a little bit more with the kings. Why don't we do that? And then we know that those are, the other ones will be in our checking range. And then this is 4 combos. And then we can actually treat 5-6 of hearts as a value bet, because the combo draw gives it so much equity. Then we have our gappers. So jack 9 suited, jack. So we'll do jack 9 of hearts clubs through 10-8 of hearts clubs. And now we have jack 10 suited through 6-5 suited. So we want to be betting, let's see, we want to be betting when we have the gutters, so 7-6, we will want to be betting all of our 7-6 and 5-6, so 8-7. For these ones we will just bet the hearts clubs and see what we get up to. In terms of bluffs, so jack 10, 9, 8. So it's 8 combos. And then 7-6 suited through 5-6 suited. We will be betting all of these. So that is 8. So we have 6, 15, 18, 22, 26, 34, 26, 34, 42. So we need so many more combos of bluffs. And what should we be bluffing? which maybe means we should actually just be checking back more of our aces as well. Just because it's harder to find good bluffs here. Although I generally like to try and bluff more on these types of flops because people overfold them. But this is an exploitative play, and we are trying to play GTO. So, maybe we're going to take these ace-10s out because we will be dominated a decent portion of the time versus a big blind calling range, or just chopping. If we both have an ace. And so if we do that, then we have... but we're probably not betting enough of our aces then. We're just checking back a huge chunk of our aces. And we like have the kings and the queens also for protection. Because those kind of play... the kings and queens kind of play like ace-10 anyways. Right now we are at, I forget how many, it was 40 something, but we just need a ton more combos. We might just have to bet all of our queen jack off, I guess. Because those we can continue to barrel when we hit Broadway draws. So why don't we just do... okay, so we have king jack off and queen jack off. We can... and king queen off. We can bet all of those where we have a heart. Or a club. Or just a heart. If we do just the ones with the heart, we're not going to get enough. We could just bet them all. Because those will have a lot of straight potential. So we're already betting our queen jack suited, so we will not double dip. And we already have our betting... yeah, so we'll bet queen jack off, which now there's 12 combos, and then king jack off seems like such a weird hand to be, or king queen off seems like such a weird hand to not be checking back. But our checking range, we have 9s, 8s, kings, queens, and a bunch of weaker... oh, we're betting... let's see... check back king queen suited, or king queen suited, queen jack suited of both clubs and hearts. Which is... how many combos? One, two, three, so 4, I think. And then we'll be betting our others. King, queen, king, jack. So now let's do the math. So we have 6, 15, 18, 22, 26, 34, 42, 54, 54, 62, 82. So we have 82 so far. What else is high equity? Could bet all of our Jack 10 suited. Our other Jack 10 suited, so we could change this. Or well, we can just add our other two Jack 10 suited. So something I'm finding interesting is how hard it is for us to find bluffs because we have so many hands we want to bet for value. Is this range really 250 whatever hands? We can bet all of our 2s and 5s as bluffs. But I think I like betting all of our 2s. Well, no, I kind of like splitting it like this. Okay, so we still have to find more bluffs. See, there aren't too many backdoor straights that we have. I guess we can bet all of our 8-7s. I don't like that. So what we could do, although I don't like doing this here, is when you have more bluffs than you ought to, or fewer bluffs than you ought to, you can just bet bigger. But this is the type of flop, since it's somewhat dry, I like to bet smaller on anyway. And so, and try and have more bluffs, we can just start bluffing with like almost everything. Which is kind of like what we're starting to do, like all the backdoor broadways. Basically all of our offsuit cards. You could also consider like our jacks and our 10s not as value bets because they're like very weak value bets. It's like a merged type thing where you're betting like mostly for protection, but you don't want to consider it a bluff. But you're gonna check almost every turn with those types of hands, and then look to call on rivers depending on texture and stuff. Yeah, just like can't come up with stuff. Except for just doing all of our suited connectors, basically, even though they have like, some of them have very little equity. I mean, they have 2 overs to the second pair. Maybe it's not insane, and you just like look to check back when you pair up a lot. We're still not going to even be enough combos. And we're talking about 9-8 suited, 8-7 suited, and that's it that we're not betting all of. I think we just have to value bet less often or bet bigger on the flop. And I don't particularly like want to bet like bigger than 75% on the flop, so I guess we're just going to check back more aces. And bluff all of our 6s. Or sorry, all of our deuces. and then this will make it 16 plus 8, 7, 9, 8, Jack 10. So it'll be 16, 22, and then minus the 2 over here. Which is plus 4 total. Guess we could bet all of our 5s too. They're the most vulnerable to getting drawn out on, and they're going to make straights. Kind of like what we have though. It's hard to find a bluff sometimes. And this is probably why people overfold on these types of hands, because it's difficult to find ace rag bluffs. Because you only have so many combinations of 5, 6, 7, 5 and stuff like that. I guess we are going to be betting all of our Jack 9 through. Oh, that's only going to give us 4 more combos. Again, we can just bet a little bit bigger, but it's not a flop I like betting big on. Need 5 more combos. Well, I think I'm just going to say that that's going to be our betting range. And we had 246 combos, so 146 or 145. With the knowledge that we will be betting a little bit larger, I suppose, to compensate for the fact that most of our stuff is value, what we could do, or what can be done in order to try and, let's see, can I change this without messing everything up? Okay, because I need my highlighter tool. What can be done to, because this is a good flop to c-bet, right? And I think that if we look at our check back range, it's actually probably too value heavy even as well. We just have such a strong range on this type of flop. When we check back, it just looks like we have kind of like these kings queens type hands. I mean, our check back range is just monstrously strong as well, in addition to our betting range being strong because we can't find enough bluffs. So it really just smacks our range. These flops, it's hard not to have something, I guess. Okay, so let's take a turn. 7 of clubs. So let's put it up on the thing. And I will come back after I minus all the combos that we can no longer have. Alright, so we have 142 combos remaining. Also, I just had a thought on us not having enough bluffs. This is also like a really tight opening range, and so I think if you have a wider opening range, which is very reasonable because this is a very tight one, you will have a lot more bluffs and a lot of like more of these lower gappers, which actually play really well as bluffs on this board because you have all the backdoors, straight and flush type things going on. Okay, so we have the 7 of clubs, and we have to ask, okay, how does this affect things? First of all, the backdoor flush is now live, so we will be betting a lot of flush draws. Also, there's a new nuts, right, with 5-6, and so that will be, our value range is going to change quite a bit. We will want to check back pretty much all of the hands we were betting for protection on the previous street, and probably continue to bet with most of our aces. I think this is probably the way we're going to look at constructing our range, but let's jump into it. So the question is do we want to be checking back any of our 5-6? And if we do, it's going to be, we have to think, is our opponent more likely to be on a club draw or a heart draw? And his answer is he's most likely to be on a heart draw because those are better calls on the flop. So if we're going to check back any combination of 5-6, it would make sense to check back the combination of 5-6 of hearts for protection, or wait. Or does that mean we want to bet 5-6 of hearts? Because if a flush comes and we have 5-6 of hearts, we're not super happy with it, because now we can easily be beat by... I'm trying to think which is the... So obviously if you check back the 5-6 of hearts, he's more likely to have a heart draw than a club draw. If you check back the 5-6 of hearts, and a heart comes, I guess you're way more happy calling then than you are with the club draw. And with the 5-6, you block hands he might continue to call with. With the 5-6 of hearts, you block hands he might continue to call with because you have a flush draw or like a combo draw. And so I guess if you want to check back one combination of the nuts, the 5-6 of hearts makes the most sense, and you can bet with the other ones. You can also just bet with all of them, which I don't hate as well. But why don't we split the range, or 6-5? I always... Okay, and we still have... We now have a new combination of sets, and whenever a turn comes set card, I generally like to bet it. I think we have 2 combos. We have the 7 of hearts, 7 of diamonds, and the 7 of hearts, or it's 7 of hearts, 7 of spades. And I don't really like checking back too much on this flop. This is going to be a flop that we also bet a lot on, or sorry, a turn, because in general, when when the backdoor flush comes in, when we're betting all these backdoor flushes, we're going to continue, and so our betting frequency is going to be really high now because only one draw came in, and now there's a ton of draws on the board, and so we're going to be betting both of our draws and our value a lot. And so I think we can just bet all of our sets. You can make some argument for checking back maybe 3s when you have a heart. But we're not going to do that. We are just going to kind of accept that our checking range is going to be particularly weak, I guess. Maybe we do want to check back some. I'm not sure what we're supposed to do here. I think we're supposed to check back some, but it feels bad. So we'll do 3 of hearts, 3 of diamonds, and 3 of hearts, 3 of spades. And then we'll bet spades, diamonds. Okay, so we have it split so that our really strong value hands, we are, for the most part, we're betting them. We have, what was this, 3, 6, 7, 8, 11, oh no, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 10 of these hands, and we're betting 7 out of 10 of them. Maybe we want to bet 8 out of 10, but the idea is we want to have some semi-netted hands in our checking range. Okay, so what are going to make our best bluffs? Or what are we checking back now that we were betting for value before? I think I like checking back the jacks and the tens that we were betting for value before. You know, we don't want to get raised off of our hand necessarily. We have decent showdown value. We might want to keep betting because there's still overs to the board. A little feels bad, but so you can either bet these and look to check back river, or check back and look to call some rivers sometimes, depending on the run out. Since there are a lot of draws, maybe we will be betting these, but I don't even know. But we will be betting ace-king. Oh, we also have to do ace-4 and ace-3. I think I just like continuing to bet those. So I think we are betting, when we put these in this range, I think we are betting an amount of strong hands that we kind of want, or the really strong hands. And ace-king, and 5, 6 of hearts was in our value range, but now we're checking it. Bam. Okay. Oh, we could also move that from here to here, and that would kind of make our stuff kind of work out. But it's like, it's a hand with so much equity that you can almost treat it like a value hand. I guess we can check back our king 7 of hearts now. And bet our king 8 of hearts, clubs. And maybe this is a place to find more bluffs, as the kings of spades and... Yeah, the king 7 of spades and... on the previous street, the king 7 of spades and diamonds would have been a good one. Okay. And so this is 6 combos minus the 1. Oh, we're just not betting any king 7. That's right. Because obviously we can't have king 7 of hearts, so. These are also nice because they block ace-king, although our opponent can't have ace-king. It means they can't have the king in their hand to know that so that they can't block. It's a reverse blocker. Oh. And then our 7s are now value bets. We should continue barreling with our 6s and our 5s, I think, because we block the nuts. Maybe we should be checking some amount of them. I kind of like barreling them because when you bet them as a bluff on the flop, instead of checking them back and then your draw comes in, obviously I would barrel them if it was a 7 of spades because we're going to have a lot of bluffs, but I think we're going to have a lot of bluffs anyways, so I like betting the 7. You can just copy paste, and this will be 6 combinations now. And they will make nice bluffs if the heart draw comes in as well, because you have a heart in them. And I think we're just going to keep bluffing with the deuces. Yeah. We will drop the bluffs where we don't have enough. I think what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be finding out how many bluffs we have and then decide how many value bets to make and check back our weaker aces if we have to, or a jacks or a tens. I think I like betting the jacks or tens and checking back the weaker aces though for protection. Okay, let's see. So we have queen, jack of hearts, clubs. So we can just copy and paste this. Jack 9, 10, 8. So we are only going to be betting the clubs and hearts now. And then this is going to be down to 9-8 suited. I guess not that many draws came in, it's just the unless we have gappers, right? Like 8-6 types hands. This is 2, 4, 6. This is not a lot of combos or bluffs because we had all these like offsuit bluffs before. But I really want to keep betting the ace-queen, so we're going to have to find the bluffs. We can just overbet here and have fewer bluffs. I actually really like overbetting on this turn because denying equity to their draws is really nice. And if we are just more weighted to value, we can overbet this turn. So I think we're just going to overbet here. And look to bet closer to pot on this type of one, and then that way we don't need as many combinations of bluffs. Right now we have 4, 10, 16, 20, 24, 30 bluffs. And we have 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, wait. 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 22 value bets. And if we include the ace-queen, which we want to, it'll be 34. Which means we want more bluffs. I kind of like bluffing when we have the king of hearts. And we bluffed all of our king-queen before, so we will do king of hearts, queen X, and king of clubs. And these will make nice bluffs down the road. This puts us at 38. Kind of want to bet our ace-jack as well. Don't have to, but I like it. And then we can also add king of hearts, jack X. And call this our range, because we want to be overbetting, so we want a few less. Or actually, why don't we do jack of clubs and king of clubs, jack of hearts. And that way it's 40 hands because we want to be having, we are overbetting, so we have to be more heavily weighted towards value. I didn't do exactly, I don't know the exact math of the ratio we want, but this is a nice turn to overbet because we're going to have a lot of draws, and we want to have the higher equity bluffs, and so we want to drop all the bluffs that aren't that don't have tremendous amount of equity. Like the king of, actually I think we just only want, I'm not sure the exact ratios. This is probably something I should know. But I think we just want to do this. And we are betting like all of our draws here, so we're not really checking back many draws except for like suited hearts that have a 7. We're checking back all that, and we're not checking back any club draws that we have, it looks like. Because we're not checking back any club draws. Is that right? So we are overbetting, and we're betting just around 50% of the time. We're betting 49% of the time. And I really like, there aren't too many draws that come in other than the 5-6 suited, and so I really like this bigger bet sizing because they are not going to have a lot of the, we're going to have a lot of the top pair hands that dominate them, and we have all of the sets and all of the straights, and so I think I like this a lot. We are checking back a lot of our 7s that made pairs. In theory, we can bet them if we like, especially we can turn the 7 heart ones into a bluff, but I feel like we don't need to find more bluffs because we can also look to check back our king-queen type hands, but so maybe these aren't the best. These probably aren't the best selections to bluff. Maybe, are we betting queen jack off? Maybe we should be doing this with queen jack type hands. But I think it's overall okay, and then it's going to give us nice bluffing cards on the river, especially when we are blocking just one, so it's going to allow us easy combinations to come through. If either flush comes in, we can bluff when we have one of the flush cards, and we don't have too many hands that are like that, other than like the deuces and the 6s and the 5s. I guess we will have ace queen, so we'll have plenty of hands with the ace of clubs that we could bluff, but those probably we just want to check back when the flush comes in. And so, okay, let's take a river. Six of clubs. And so, I will pause it and eliminate all the hands we can no longer have. Okay, so the clubs, the backdoor flushes come in, so we will be betting for those for value. We also have a ton of the nut flush, or we have 3 combos of the nut flush, I think, and so that's pretty good. Let's see, is there... So 5-6 suddenly doesn't look very good, but 5s came in, and so for the most part, I don't think... I'm not sure if an ace can bet for value here. Probably not. But let's take a look at our value hands, and I was surprised there's only -1 combo, so we have 69 combos remaining, which is nice. Right, because it's just the 6s that come out. And so let's take a look at our value hands, our very strongest value hands, and obviously we bet all of them now because we don't need protection. And so we have, well, let's look all of our nut flush. So we have ace, queen, clubs, or sorry, ace, king of clubs through ace, jack of clubs. And then we have several king high flushes. And then we have fives got there as a straight, but we want to be betting our flushes first. And since it's the backdoor flush, we can kind of discount it a bit from our opponent's range, although they can be sticky with their backdoor flushes on the flop. In general, they'll want to play mostly their regular stuff, or the heart draws more than the club draws. Especially people, don't call the backdoor stuff enough probably, but do we want to check back any flushes? I don't think so. I think we just want to bet them all. So queen jack of or clubs, queen 10 of clubs, that's 3 combos. And importantly, we will be betting all of our hands that have one of the clubs and one of the hearts. Because when we think about what we want to bet on the river, to some extent we want to bet our very worst hands if that's all we have for bluffs. But if we have enough combinations, like to be picky, we want to bet hands that block the nuts, which in this case is anything with a club, and we want to we don't want to bet with hands that block draws we want our opponent to have. So we don't want to bet with hearts if we can avoid it, which is kind of what we'll try and do here, especially with our pocket pairs that somehow still missed. Although, like, everything came in, I don't think we can bet aces, really. What we could do is we could bet ace-king when we have the ace of clubs and be able to rejam it as a bluff if our opponent raises, which is probably pretty good. But let's try and get through. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So far 12 value hands, and we want 2 value hands for every 1 bluff hand, roughly. And so we will need to make now, should we bet our straights for value here? Well, we can't have 5-8. I'm not sure if we want to bet our straights for value. I think we If we bet our straights and we bet ace king with the ace of clubs, what is the big blind supposed to call down with here? I'm trying to come up with a strategy. Three, four, five, six, seven. It might be the case that we want to use sets as bluffs, which is wild. Or ace with the ace of club is bluff slash merge type of bet. The thing is our range is so strong here that I want to get value with the straights. Don't think we can go for. I think we might be betting ace jack as a bluff, which seems crazy a little bit, but probably is one of the better bluffs. And then I think we want to try and get value from our straights, but we could just try and do it with the straights that have well, there's only a couple straights that have a club. So we have our 5-5 combos with the hearts. And then we actually lost 2 combos. It's not as nice. Then our 2 combos of 5-6 or 6-5. And these are 6-5 of diamonds and spades. So if this is our value range, we need to find a few more bluffs. Not a lot more. And the question is like, do we think our opponent's gonna like just call down with an ace, or will our opponent have to be like have this calling range that includes like a lot of just ace X? Because if they do, then we can bet our sets for value, especially because they don't block. If they don't, then I think we want to bluff with ace jack clubs. But really awkward if we bet ace jack clubs as a bluff and we get snapped off by ace queen, right? But our range is like so strong that I mean we can bet fold our. We also have so much of the nut flush. So can we bet our sets? See, this is the part where I wish I knew what like the felting range for the other guy looked like.
I think it will have like a lot of aces in it though, and it will have aces in it more often when we bet a set. I think we especially want to bet the fours that don't have a club. So if we bet sevens, I definitely think we'll get called down by a set, although a set probably raises earlier. Yeah, there's also not very many good... If they don't have the ace of clubs, there's not very many cans that just want to call and like don't want to raise that are really nutted. And so they probably aren't arriving at this river with any sets. And so, okay. We have sixes that got there, right? We're just gonna two combos of sixes, I think. Because, let's see, we have the 6x... No. So, yeah, just two combos of sixes, because we have to discount one of them. And I guess we're folding the sets to a bet fairly often. Twos make a good bluff. Kind of. Twos with a club really do, because it blocks ace deuce clubs, which is a reasonable hand we could have. So why don't we just include the two club 2x, of which there's three combos, and then we can come back to this and either bet all of our twos, because it's hard for us to... I mean, we're not opening 2-5, so... It doesn't block a straight, but it does block ace deuce, which is a hand we could conceivably have. We could also just overbet this river as well. Well, I don't like that as much. Right now I'm looking for bluffs. Did we bet fours? Oh. Yeah. So fours. There's three of them, and then the three of spades, three of diamonds. Okay, so all of our suited cards, do we bet any suited cards that did not have a heart in them? No, we did not. So it's really tough to find bluffs. I guess we're just going to bet all of our deuces because our deuces are not, they don't have two hearts in them. And I think when we are betting, I think our opponent's range becomes quite capped. And they're going to occasionally have flushes, but we have a lot of the flushes, plus we have nut flushes, so we need to find more hands to bet. I suppose we should start with the weaker heart hands, because that's all we have left, right? The king nine, the sixes got there. The deuces were bluffing. Except we can bet with the ace jack of clubs as a bluff. Or you could bet with the ace king of clubs as a merge, or the ace of clubs king x as a merge. Type deal. Where we'll just look to overjam if we get raised. So just the ace queen, the ace jack, and the ace king betting when we have the club, but not. That's so weird as a bet. Alright. Yeah, just everything got there. It's so hard to find a hand that's like actually like plays as a bluff. Like maybe this is why we should have been betting like tens and jacks on the last street. Yeah, so we should have bet tens and jacks on the last street. Because we were already overbetting anyways, right? And we could have just found more. Oh no, we already had too many value combos. We would just have even more. Maybe. So maybe. God, this recording's already like 90 minutes, and I'm like trying to think through fucking what makes good combos. I guess we are just gonna not bluff with king of hearts. Or alright, we'll do all the ones without the king of hearts, I guess. That's 3. I guess that's okay. And then we're betting these, and if they raise, we can jam these because they block the nuts. And we also expect that their calling range, this will beat a good portion of their calling range as well. I don't know if we should do this with the ace jack. I don't think I like it as much with the ace jack, but now the question is, should we be doing with this ace king when we have the king of clubs? And obviously only doing this if I think we could get more value here is the thing. Already betting 42 combos, but just maybe. The thing is, I just think Ace King is going to. I think they raised their sets on earlier streets. I think there are no sets in this calling range. I think Ace King is just thin value. And maybe we think they'll just call a lot when they have the Ace of Clubs. So we can bet Ace King. I just want to bet more of our range. I just want to do it. Because I think you can get value here. So we'll just add the bluffs and then add as many combos of Ace King. So we want to bet Ace King without the King of Hearts. Or do we want to bet with the King of Hearts at this point? Whatever. Okay, so we will just be checking back when we have the King of Hearts, those King flush draws, and yeah. So overall, let's take a look at like what our felting range looks like. So first of all, we are betting 49, 53 out of 68. So we're betting setting it at 78 combos. I think I said 53, right? Which is like 78. I just did it. Yeah, 78%. He has a high incentive to really raise on the turn, and especially the river, and so it's hard for him to have a really strong call down range Especially there's not a lot of... His call down range will probably include mostly stuff with the ace of clubs, which that isn't a flush, and also some flushes. He'll play passively like this, but and so we should be able to squeeze value out of his hands that are just calling down with the ace of clubs, ace x of clubs with the offsuit. We'll get value from those. Hard to imagine he has sets. He can have some straights. I don't think he raises the straights. And when he raises, we can fold all of our kings, call with all of our flushes. Let's see, how many flushes do we have here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 12 flushes, so a quarter of our range is flushes. And then plus a little bit more where we block it. If we get raised, we can bluff with the ace king and ace queen when we have the ace clubs, and we can also bluff with these four hands, and that'll be our bluff range. And then our value range to re-raise will be nut flush and maybe king high flushes as well, or just the nut flush. It makes a lot of sense for him to just call down with the ace x of clubs. And so maybe we're betting a little too much. If we want to bet less, what we could do is we could just go for, we don't, maybe only bet with the so we can maybe just look to get value with like the ace clubs, king of, just all of the ace, ace x, ace king, ace queen, ace jack, as long as we have the ace of clubs, knowing that that is going to be the best card our opponent can both bluff with and value raise with. And so when we block it, they'll also make spectacular rejams, just because he can't have the nuts. And so that might be better than... Well, I definitely think it's better to bet with ace queen with the ace clubs. And so, yeah. You get the idea, though. So maybe we want to actually cut down on some of these ace kings and merged bet when we have the ace clubs and king x, just all three of them. And then ace clubs, queen x, all three of them. Ace jack, 3x, all three of them. Sometimes he'll call down with the ace queen, with an ace queen, and then we are sad with the ace jack, I guess. But that's why it's a merge bet and not a bluff or a value bet. But at the same time, it blocks combos where he can check raise us, right? And if he is calling with a lot of combos that, just beat, I think overall this range will do quite well. I think he's going to raise a lot of, well, actually, I think he crying calls a lot of straights here too, so maybe ace king isn't so good, right? Because when the 5, he calls with a 5 or a straight draw of some kind. And okay, but overall, let's take a quick look. We will not be doing the other side of this. We'll do the other side of this later. where the big blind calling range. But we look at like the board texture. The board starts out like fairly dry, and then it becomes, when there are two flush draws that come in, like there's a lot of good hands to select for bluffs. Although we couldn't find enough bluffs because of the ace high board, and also the flush draw was all the other cards were all low cards, so it makes it hard to find bluffs. So we overbet the turn because we couldn't find enough bluffs, and I think that like our value hands were all very strong relative to what our opponent can have and be calling down with. So I like this as a means of getting more fold equity out of our bluffs and having the highest equity bluffs instead of bluffing random stuff that's not a very good draw. Like we're not bluffing the queen ten of spades on the turn types of hands. And so this lets us have higher value bluffs, but maybe we should be bluffing like a little bit wider. Also, I wish we could bet jacks and tens on the turn and find a way to make that fit, but I just couldn't sort it out. I was already having trouble finding bluffs, so maybe we just like we add them to the range and we just bet bigger. Might just be the thing, because I think that those cards would be nice to have on the river for bluffs, where we just bluff when we have a club in them and not a heart. They would make really good river bluffs, as well as when a blank comes on the river, there's a nice check back hand, because if he doesn't have an ace and he was on a draw, it just beats it, and like, I don't know, maybe you could bluff with them sometimes. But yeah, hopefully this has been informative. It was a nice little learning experience for me. Like the texture of a board where it's like all low with an ace is like kind of an interesting board, because you're not playing, unless you're opening like a really wide range, you're not playing a lot of hands that like have backdoor like straight draws, and so it can be hard to find bluffs even though we have like both of these suits on the turn. And we can bet a lot of our suited stuff. Also, like, there's just not enough like backdoor straight draws, because all of our like offsuit combinations are all like broadways, and so it can be a bit difficult to find bluffs. I think we maybe should have been bluffing a lot more of the offsuit hands that had both a heart and a club, more than just these four. Like we should have just bet all of them, with the idea that if because those would make much better bluffs later on than all these suited hands, and then we don't have to overbet as much, or then we can include the jacks and the tens. So yeah, maybe. And so that was maybe an adjustment that we could learn from here. The also like I think our checking range is also, or another thing to just like keep in mind is like the backdoor flush came in, and in particular our opponent will have a lot of ace x of clubs, I think, in their range, and so maybe this is because that's like a decent hand to call with on the flop, and then the seven of clubs comes, and that's not a very good hand to raise with, because if you're dominated and you like raise and you get action, you're just like turning your hand into a bluff where you don't need to, and so it just makes a nice check call, check call, check call, and it's like the only hand that will look particularly good, other than like straights. But I think if you have a straight, you raise it on the turn, and if you have a set, you're raising it on the flop or the turn, and then that kind of, or for the most part, when you're playing out of position, and so that kind of leaves that he can either, when he raises you on the river, he can either have fives, or he can have ace x of clubs, or he can have ace clubs blank, and he's turning it into a bluff. I think exploitatively speaking, a lot of people will just cry and call with the ace X of clubs when they don't have a flush, and so I think exploitatively speaking, I like the betting of the ace king, but maybe you shouldn't be betting ace king unless you have the ace of clubs. Specifically, and then I think a lot of his calling range will also just be like ace X, where you just have a strong ace and you just like have to call down or whatever, because you raise the sets on earlier streets, because the board on the turn just looks like crazy. Like you just have to. I don't think you can slow play sets too much on that board, so that's partially why betting so many combos on the river. But even then, like our combos are almost entirely stuff that will just beat most of the sets, right? Like, because we have sets with the 7s and the 6s, because we were betting those. And so, if he can't have aces, and so we got like 4s and 3s and stuff like this. And I guess let's take a quick look at like what happens with our like checking range on some of these like later streets, our flop checking range, and then we could talk about our other checking range. So we don't have all the cards in our range, but we know that we're checking back some of our stronger kings that are suited, that have draws, as well as like our ace 4 of clubs, and our weaker suited aces we are just checking back. So when this turn comes, we'll have like ace 7 of hearts to value bet, and we can bet if it goes check, check, and then we face a bet, we'll have a bunch of aces, and some club draws and some heart draws to continue with on the turn if he bets into us, as well as a bunch of aces, and some of those aces will be ace 7. We can raise with ace 7 and aces, I think, when they bet into us onto this. And then we will also have we'll have some ace 5, which make nice calls, but they'll hit a straight, and we have the suited aces, a lot of them, actually probably too many of them, but I'm not sure the like weaker suited aces, but okay. And then we also even have ace 10 in our checking range. And so, exploitatively speaking, like maybe they shouldn't be calling with like ace 9 offsuit pre-flop, but people do it. And so we'll be beating there. So like that range is fairly protected. If we look at our turn check back what we're checking back king 7 of hearts, a lot of 7 type hands, some of our sets. We didn't check back any of our, and we checked back one of our straights, and so this range will actually be pretty difficult to defend. I think we are just calling with, because I think we bet with all of our aces. Yeah, we bet with all of our aces because we were looking for more value hands. Yeah, this range is going to be miserable to defend. I think this range looks particularly like tough to defend. In general, it's hard to make bet, check, call ranges, but at the same time, you're only calling for like, yeah, yeah. So this is one weakness of like the 7 of clubs coming in, is that we have no club draws in our checking range. We have 2 heart draws in our checking range. So if a heart came on the river, we would be pretty good. And so, like, we should probably construct the range a little bit different here. The problem is we don't have a lot of club draws on the turn that have a lot of showdown value that would make good checks. And so I don't know the best way to remedy this, other than maybe betting, I think this is just a thing where, like, you should be like mostly betting like the ace 4 of clubs type of hands, and then like sometimes not betting it, and then like it's a matter of you have to have a mixed strategy to be robustly defended on the turn here and have like a lot of checkbacks, particularly because you're gonna have to bet some equity, like flush draws, or so 5-6 of clubs actually would be like a good example of, or sorry, not 5-6, 4-5 of clubs would be a good example of a card that you like bet flop sometimes with the like low pair backdoor flush draw, and then it plays well as a check. But we don't have a lot of those hands because we don't have suited connectors that go down this low. And so, okay, I think we did have jacks and tens in our calling range. So I guess we're just calling that with jacks and tens that, so maybe we shouldn't even complain here because the jacks and tens actually makes some nice calls. When we have a club in them, we just call with those, and we're probably exploitable, but like we're calling with some of our sevens and our sets and our straight and some tens, or some jacks and some tens, and like I don't know if he's going for value with an ace, that like works, I guess. And then I think we kind of like just went through it all a little bit, so we probably need to construct this turn range a little bit differently to not be so exploitable when we are turn checking, because we took all of the high equity draws and we put them in here so we could overbet and really look to punish. So maybe this is kind of an exploitative spot we're taking, and we should be checking some amount of these draws, but I kind of like just being polarized. When we bet and then we check, we'll have a very depolarized range, which is exactly what we have. We just have a lot of like medium strength. We have the jacks, the tens, the king seven, various other sevens, which notably like don't you don't hit a pair on the turn and then have equity and then hit a flush on the river. So maybe we need to be considering when the backdoor flush comes, how we are going to have some of those hands in our checking range somehow. And so maybe we have to try and find combinations of backdoor flush draws with equity that we want to bet on the flop and then check on the turn quite a bit. The problem is ace four is the only hand, it's the only combination that we have that in our pre-flop range that hits this flop, but it's also a two-pair hand. And so just betting it and then checking it, I guess. But I think we checked it back on the flop. So that's maybe something we can do different. Oh, we don't even have it in our range anywhere. In my head, it didn't exist as a hand. Okay, well, I guess, like, having that in our check range is nice. And that kind of sorts things out a bit. Anyways, this is starting to get quite long, so I think I'll call it here. If you, as far as discussion goes, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you have any particular like boards you are interested in analyzing, I'd be more than happy to take requests, because right now I'm just doing random hands, and so that makes sense. Boards and like opening ranges or whatever, and take a look at how we can sort them out and that sort of thing. Yeah, and then have a good one.